Chapter 4. The 12 Pathways. The 12 pathways to the higher consciousness planes of unconditional love and oneness. This has been divided into different segments. Segment 1 is freeing myself. Segment 2 is being here and now. Segment 3 is interacting with others. And segment 4 is discovering my conscious awareness. Now, coming to the first segment, the first pathway is that I'm freeing myself from security, sensation, and power addictions that make me try to forcefully control situations in my life and thus destroy my serenity and keep me from loving myself and others. Pathway 2 is that I am discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. Pathway 3 is that I welcome the opportunity, even if painful, that my minute to minute experience offers me to become aware of the addictions I must reprogram in order to liberate myself from my robot like emotional patterns. Now, pathway 4, I always remember that I have everything I need to enjoy my here and now, unless I'm letting my consciousness be dominated by demands and expectations based on the dead past or the imagined future. Pathway 5, I take full responsibility here and now for everything I experience, for it is my own programming that creates my actions and also influences the reactions of people around me. Number 6, I accept myself completely, here and now, and consciously experience everything I feel, think, say, and do, including my emotion backed addictions, as a necessary part of my growth into higher consciousness. Now, coming to the section on interacting with others, pathway number 7, I open myself genuinely to all people by being willing to fully communicate my deepest feelings, since hiding in any degree keeps me stuck in my illusion of separateness from other people. Number 8, I feel with loving compassion the problems of others without getting caught up emotionally in their predicament that is offering them messages that they need for their growth. Pathway 9, I act freely when I'm tuned in, centered, and loving. But if possible, I avoid acting when I'm emotionally upset and depriving myself of the wisdom that flows from love and expanded consciousness. Now, coming to the section on discovering my conscious awareness, pathway 10 says that I am continually calming the restless scanning of my rational mind in order to perceive the finer energies that enable me to unitively merge with everything around me. Pathway 11, I'm constantly aware of which of the seven centers of consciousness I am using, and I feel my energy, perceptiveness, love, and inner peace growing as I open all of the centers of consciousness. Finally, pathway number 12, I am perceiving everyone, including myself, as an awakening being who is here to claim his or her birthright to the higher consciousness planes of unconditional love and oneness. Now, the 12 pathways were formulated in 1972, and since that time, they have changed the lives of countless numbers of people. Now, the best thing about the 12 pathways is that they give a minute to minute guide for operating your consciousness while you interact with the world around you. They enable you to live a continually happy, conscious, loving, joyous, fulfilled, pleasurable life. Now, if you've had enough of the up and down, roller coastering between pleasure and pain, and are really ready to enjoy and get the most out of your life all of the time, then you're ready to use and apply the 12 pathways to make a dramatic change in your life. Now, in the following four chapters, we're going to go into a bit more detail into the 12 pathways, which is actually going to be the foundation and the bedrock of the teachings of this book. Because these pathways have been designed to help you liberate yourself from the kind of mental traps that we have imposed on ourselves. Now, the 12 pathways to higher consciousness can show us how to accelerate our spiritual development and enable you to begin a new life of living love. These pathways can show you the way to find the beauty and happiness that is hidden within you. You were erroneously taught that happiness lies in getting people and things outside of you lined up exactly to suit your desires. But our desires multiply so much faster than our capacity to satisfy them. In the living love system, an addiction is any desire that makes you upset or unhappy if it is not satisfied. Life is warning you to get rid of an addiction every time you are emotionally uncomfortable in any way. Even if an addiction brings you pleasure, that pleasure is usually quite short lived. For you will then begin to perceive threat to that pleasure and you will worry about changes in your life that will deprive you of that pleasure. And you compare today's pleasure with yesterday's pleasure and often find that today's pleasure is not quite as satisfying. All of this keeps you out of the here and now. Now, you make a giant step towards higher consciousness when you become fully aware of the price in happiness you must pay for each addiction. Now, I'm just going to repeat this for myself because, yeah, this is something that I guess I can start noticing more in myself. Like, I do notice my addictions and my patterns of, yeah, what are the things, the ways in which I'm creating separation from the people around me and I'm tuning out of the situations that I'm in. But maybe in the recent times, I've felt okay about it, but maybe it would be quite useful for me to, yeah, just notice uh, how much of an impact each of these addictions is kind of having on the overall quality of my life. And really seeing that can kind of actually quite accelerate the journey towards liberating myself from the addictions that I have. Now, as you become increasingly aware of how your consciousness operates, you will be able to distinguish between your biocomputer and the programming that your biocomputer uses. For example, like $1 million IBM computer may work perfectly, but if you put garbage type programming in it, you will get garbage type results from this splendid machine. Now, computer scientists refer to this as GIGO, which refers to garbage in and garbage out. Now, if you're not continually loving everyone around you and continuously enjoying the here and now situations in your life, that means that your magnificent biocomputer has been operating from garbage type programming. Well, this is definitely the case for me because sometimes I feel quite unloving towards the people around me. And yeah, that means I still have a lot of garbage type programming that I can work with. So, when you see yourself consciously and clearly, you realize that you are perfect. Your only problem is to change some of the programming from which you are operating. Your ego also plays a crucial part in the operating of your biocomputer. Based on past pleasure and pain programming, your ego selects which of the thousands of programs will be used to generate your feelings and experience of what is happening. Your ego is like a master controller that directs which emotional feeling will be triggered: joy, pleasure, anger, grief, fear, disappointment, irritation, etc. Your ego also chooses exactly what will be projected onto the screen of your consciousness. You are aware only of what your ego permits you to be aware of. When your ego is busy reacting to the people and things around you from the lower three centers of consciousness, your primary awareness will be focused on what you desire and what you fear, thereby creating in you the feeling of an urgent priority. Most of these lower consciousness programs represent the urgent priority you had at the age of 2 years old. Until you reprogram and change these inappropriate childhood programs, you will continually turn off the energy of the world. Now, there are 5 stages in learning to use these pathways. Each stage enables you to be progressively more aware of how these pathways produce beautiful and sometimes miraculous changes in your life. In the first stage, you are unaware of the pathways. You are unconsciously playing out the drama of your life. You are going through your daily patterns of desiring and rejecting people and things in a mechanical and unconscious way. In the second stage, when something happens or when someone says something that you don't like, you upset yourself even though you're aware of the 12 pathways. You're beginning to see how they can make your life work when you use them at the programming level, where they will facilitate your interpretation of the here and now. However, you're still susceptible to your old programming, which makes you automatically anger if someone criticizes you, or automatically afraid if someone triggers your security addictions. The great thing about this second stage is that you're becoming aware of the lower consciousness programmings that tend to keep you, like, or rather, that tend to automatically run off. And you realize that there is a programming that you can use to create continuous enjoyment and happiness in your life. Now, in the third stage of learning to use the pathways, you find that as soon as you're aware of any uncomfortable feeling, such as anger, fear, jealousy, grief, etc., you can pinpoint exactly to which of the pathways you are violating. By thus engaging your rational mind and interpreting your experience by using a pathway, you find that you're progressively cutting down on the period of unconsciousness in which you are a slave to your older, lower consciousness programming. In the third stage, it may take several hours for you to dispel the negative emotions you're experiencing, but you now begin to find that the amount of time that you are upset is being gradually reduced so that you experience negative emotions only for a period of minutes or even seconds. You can still trigger negative emotions and feelings, but you're getting free from them faster and faster. In the fourth stage, you find that if someone does something that you do not like, you may start to get angry, but at the same time, one or two of the pathways flash in your consciousness. These give you an insight which does not allow the anger response to develop. You experience an increasing freedom. Your ability to love, accept, and interact flowingly with other people increases enormously. At the fifth stage, you have eliminated all of the lower consciousness programming which triggered your negative emotional responses. You simply respond to whatever is happening here and now by using one of the pathways, either consciously or unconsciously, in interpreting what is happening. You may be aware that you used to get angry or jealous in this type of situation, but the feeling of anger or jealousy is no longer triggered. You realize that you are the master of your mind, for you have determined the programming with which you want your mind to operate. This is one of the most fulfilling things that you can do. As soon as you begin to use the 12 pathways in your everyday life situations, you will find that your life takes on a beautiful new dimension. Things that were previously nagging problems now become vital experiences that you confidently use in the important job of reprogramming your biocomputer. You're beginning to realize that everything that happens to you is really perfect. For you experience either happiness because it fits the patterns of the programming of your biocomputer, or you experience the beginning of a negative emotion which is giving you a welcomed opportunity to work on reprogramming your biocomputer so that you will not have this problem in the future. Now, the 12 pathways are presented on which we just spoke about. Now, what we need to do is memorize them in order to implant them deeply in our consciousness. Memorizing helps you use them at a programming level in shaping your perceptions below consciousness level. Just reading them for intellectual understanding will not really permit you to use them as dynamic tools that can make your life work. Use the pathways in interpreting your moment to moment stream of consciousness. They can lead you straight into higher consciousness and enable you to find the love, happiness, wisdom, and fulfillment that is your birthright in life. End of chapter 4.